Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back. Dr. Jaws here. Hello, Howard. Good evening to you, too. Welcome back. Tonight is going to be a very special episode focusing on the rays. So it'd be kind of cool to mix it up a little bit. And it's also really good as an outlier to the sharks, where when studying something, it's always good to kind of have some contrast and have some context for kind of what's something that's like closely related but not quite the same thing, and it's cool to compare like how the rays and the sharks work, and the similarities that they have, but also the differences. So, right now we're looking at a cool clip of Deerfield Beach, Florida. It has this really great live cam series, and there's a sawfish, which is an incredible ray, critically endangered ray, but a lot of really cool wildlife in these videos. And tonight's episode is going to be featuring rays like the sawfish, as well as classics like the manta ray, maybe some unusual ones like the torpedo rays, and then the skates, which are also a kind of ray. So I think what we're going to do probably is we're going to do a very brief... Oh, I love this porcupine fish photobombing. Oh, there's another ray, a guitar fish. I wanted to start the episode with this clip because there's a lot of rays that show up in this really cool cam series, including the manta ray. So beautiful example of a manta ray in the background right there. So it's kind of a cool showcase of like how diverse the rays are, where there's 4 major orders, and we're going to meet each one of them tonight. And for the most part, they share a characteristic in the sense that they're flat. They're dorsoventrally flattened animals. And their pectoral fins are fused to the side of their head, so it's similar. It's different from sharks in that way, where sharks have, as we say multiple times on the stream, sharks have their heads separate from the pectoral fins. Their pectoral fins are independent from their heads, whereas rays have them fused. So that's like the major difference between them. Rays also have their gills on the underside of their bodies, where sharks have them on the side. And other than that. Oh, sorry, I just saw your comment, Howard. Love rays. Yep. They're really cool animals, where I've met a few rays in the wild, and, oh, nice shot of a barracuda right there. And it's so cool how just the way they move and the way they work, you can see the similarities. Both sharks and rays, of course, are cartilaginous fish, so they're very, very different from bony fish. They have a much more flexible internal skeleton. Oh, great shot of a manatee, by the way. So that's actually really cool to see a manatee in this clip. This cam, by the way, we've seen it before a couple times, but Deerfield Beach in Florida has a continuous live stream of this particular, or like a couple of different shots. Ooh, this is a great school of look-down fish. A couple different shots of this area. So if you haven't seen it already, check it out. It's really, really cool. I'm gonna post a comment here. Deerfield Beach live cam. Nice shot of a barracuda. What's kind of fun about when you look at Florida... Oh, great. That might be a loggerhead sea turtle right there. So, but what's really cool about Florida wildlife, for somebody who lives on the east coast of the U.S. In Virginia, a lot of the tropical animals in Florida, they actually come up here in the summertime, and then a lot of our winter animals come south from New England. So it's kind of cool to watch this clip, or these clips, to see outliers, or warm water outliers. But anyway, without further ado, we'll dive into the rays, and tonight's episode layout is going to be, we'll take a look at each order. And we're going to take a lot of footage. A lot of the sharks that we were talking about recently, they're either rare or just not really well known. So there's not a lot of clips on those shark species, but for the rays, we definitely have a lot of cool stuff to review, which I'm really excited about. So we'll do a brief overview of the entirety of the rays, the BATOMORPHs. And we're going to stick to Wikipedia, which is kind of silly. I know Wikipedia is like, you got to trust it with a grain of salt, but as far as like an introduction, it's okay. And then we're going to dive into some deeper, better sources in terms of ray conservation with the IUCN Red List. So we're going to pull up each order and kind of see how the rays are doing overall in their respective orders. Some are the most critically endangered elasmobranchs, so it's particularly the sawfish are really not doing so well. But some are doing relatively okay. Certain skate species, you've probably seen mermaids' purses on the beach, where these are the A cases of skates, and some skates are doing extremely well. They're very prolific, and they lay multiple eggs throughout their lifetime, and are able to reproduce a little bit more comparatively quickly than some shark species. So it's going to be really cool to compare and explore what makes the rays rays. And I think without further ado, we'll get started. So, good to see you again, Howard, and hope you had a really good weekend. As I've been saying in the past couple of streams, the weather is getting better and better. We're getting more sharks up here, so just enjoying our transition to spring. And we're not that far from summer, honestly. So with the water temperatures rising and it's a very cool migratory period right now. But so BATOMORPHI is the official name of the rays, and this has changed in my lifetime, where I think it used to be Rajiformes was an order that encompassed everything, but I think that's changed recently to BATOMORPHI. So BATOMORPHI is a division of cartilaginous fishes, commonly known as rays. This taxon is sometimes considered as a superorder Batoidea, but the 5th edition of Fish of the World classifies a division of BATOMORPHI. BATOMORPHI, along with the shark division Selachii, both compose a subclass of Elazobranchii. So elazobranchs are the sharks and rays. That's the most common scientific term used for sharks and rays. And to really break it down, the entire class, like how there's a class of reptiles, a class of mammals, the class of birds, the class of amphibians. The class of sharks and rays is Chondrichthyes. So Chondrichthyes is all the cartilaginous fish. These are all fish that have cartilage as their skeletal support structures. And those are split into two main groups, the holocephali, which are the chimeras, which we'll probably talk about in a different episode. A different chimera special would be really cool. And then the elazobranchs, which are the sharks and rays. Elazobranchs, as this just said, is split into two categories, sharks and rays, sharks being the Selachians, and then rays being the BATOMORPHIs, or the batoids. So, rays are the most speciose of cartilaginous fishes groups, with well over 600 species in 26 families. I actually never knew how impressive the biodiversity rays was. That's actually really, really massive. And it's kind of comparable to sharks, because sharks are in the I want to say 550s now. Like there's about 520 to 540 shark species to date. But 600 is not too far off as far as the rays go, so that's really exciting. Rays are distinguished by their flattened bodies, in large pectoral fins that are fused to the head, and gill slits that are placed on their ventral surface. So, classic example of a ray right here. This is a pelagic stingray. And apparently rays evolved in the Jurassic period. So they split off from the sharks in the Jurassic period and became their own thing henceforth. Going to skim through most of this. I guess we can... Oh, this is actually really cool. So, comparison of elazobranch fish. This is actually a really good little guide comparing sharks, rays, and then a different kind of ray, the guitarfish, which it's truly a ray, but we talked about this in a recent episode where it looks so similar to sharks. So when you really split them up and compare them, and what makes a guitarfish a kind of ray overall. So shape. Sharks are laterally compressed and spittled shape. Of course, there's many exceptions, like angel sharks are flat. Many sharks are... there's rough sharks. Rough sharks are... I paused because I should say many sharks are like this, but there's some sharks like rough sharks that are like a swimming pyramid. They're very like trapezoidal, or they're very, very strangely shaped. Many sharks are like this, but actually the majority of sharks are kind of elongate and eel-like, so kind of like the cat sharks. That's kind of the majority of sharks. The dogfish and the lantern sharks are also very small and elongate too. But rays, as a general shape, they're dorsoventrally compressed with a flattened disc. Habitat. Usually sharks are surface... Okay, this is kind of throwing me off a little bit, because sharks occupy almost every habitat on Earth. I guess the big takeaway here is rays typically spend their time on the bottom, but there's also many exceptions to that, of course, because there's manta rays and eagle rays, these really cool free-swimming stingrays, so we'll kind of put a pin in that. Eyes on sharks are typically on the side of the head, though benthic have dorsally oriented eyes. Rays' eyes are mostly on the top of the head. Spiracles, some sharks have them, some sharks don't. So spiracles are these weird, small, highly modified gills, essentially. And actually, a more technical description. Spiracles are openings on the surface of some animals which usually lead to respiratory systems. So here is a spiracle of a ray right here. So it's really close to the eye. So imagine a ray's gills are actually on the underside of its body, but you still have this spiracle, which kind of helps it breathe. And then this is a kind of dogfish down here where the spiracle is also very close to the eye. So the spiracle is a small hole behind each eye that opens to the mouth in some fish. Let's see. And it helps with breathing. So some sharks, like it says, don't have spiracles at all. Many do, and then rays always do. So it's interesting. The gills of sharks are on the sides, and that is always true. I know I made a lot of exceptions up here, but it is always true that sharks have their gills on their sides. Even angel sharks, the gills are very small and tucked, but they are on the side of the head, whereas rays' gills are always ventral. They're always underneath. Sharks have distinct pectoral fins, and that's always true. So they always have, free, independent pectoral fins that, can articulate to some degree. Whereas rays, and rays could articulate their fins too, but the rays' fins are fused to the head. So the rays' pectoral fins are not distinct; they blend with the main body. Tail, sharks have a notable caudal fin on a muscular tail. This is pretty much always true. Some sharks have a very reduced lower lobe, but they all have a caudal fin. Whereas rays have a wide variety of shapes. Some have shark-like fins, and some of them have just the whip-like tails. And then locomotion. Sharks swim by moving their tail from the side to side. That is mostly always true. Some sharks, as we know, like the epaulet sharks, they will crawl. They'll use their pectoral fins to crawl in the seabed or crawl from tide pool to tide pool. But for the most part, they can swim too. So for the most part, this is pretty much true. And then rays swim by flapping their pectoral fins like wings. So it's really cool where the actual pectoral fins of rays are the defining feature, and like how they're fused to the head, and that overall shape where it's kind of more like a disc, and that's kind of like their overall motif. Whereas sharks, their motif is strong, powerful predator that it's a little bit more. It just kind of seems a little bit more active, like a little bit more like a torpedo kind of thing. Although most sharks are small and not really like they're more like, how do I say this? Like it's kind of interesting how the overall motif of rays is like disc, whereas the overall motif of sharks is kind of like football or sphere or torpedo. It's just like it's just a very tubular animal. it's hard to really quite explain. So, but you know what I mean. Howard, also, I just saw your comment working on motorcycles. It sounds like a really awesome weekend activity. Fossil holocephalans are amazing. Yes, so it's actually really cool that a lot of the elasmobranchs essentially evolved and broke off from the holocephalans a long time ago. But a lot of the prehistoric animals that we used to call sharks, because I think Cladosolaki is a holocephalan, if I'm not mistaken. But a lot of the prehistoric animals that we used to call sharks are actually chimeras. They're actually, or closely related to chimeras. So related to that, love this comment, Howard, that fossil holocephalans are amazing. They really are, and they're incredibly diverse in terms of where they live and what they look like. So for rays overall, I will go back to anatomy just to see if there's any other key features that we were missing. So we talked about basically that most rays are flat. They have no anal fin, which is pretty interesting. Many sharks also lack that. Many sharks have it. Let's see. Batomorphs have a ventrally located mouth and can considerably protrude their upper jaw away from the cranium to capture prey. That's similar to sharks. The jaws have euhyostylic type suspension, which relies completely on a hyomandibular cartilages for support. So just like sharks, the rays' jaws are not fused to the head, so they don't have a skull. So that's actually a really cool thing that they have in common with sharks. Most batomorphs have developed heavy, rounded teeth for crushing the shells of bottom-dwelling species such as snails, clams, oysters, crustaceans, and some fish, depending on the species. So that's actually a really cool distinction right here. I'll reread this, but rays predate on snails, clams, oysters, crustaceans, and some fish. And manta rays feed on plankton, using dense gill rakers to capture them. So that's actually a really cool distinction between rays and sharks, because rays, they'll handle smaller animals in these categories, but you will never see a ray going after an elazobrink, and you'll never see a ray going after a marine mammal. Whereas sharks, they've evolved in such a different way where many of them have become very large predators that are capable of hunting marine mammals or capable of hunting other elazobrinks. And actually, I have an example of that somewhere. Here we go. So as a really cool example, kind of like comparing the two, here is a shark, the great hammerhead, hunting for a ray. And it's like a really cool comparison of these two different branches of the elazobrinks. So it's two elazobrinks in action. So a hammerhead shark is torpedo-shaped body, gills on the side of the head, very active swimmer, patrolling the seabed. It has the same senses as a ray, or should have very similar senses to a ray. I'm going to pause right here really quick, because I definitely want to check that. Sharks are famous for having their electromagnetic sense, the ampullae lorenzini. I actually wanted to see if rays possess that as well. Evolution. Conservation. Let's see also batomorph locomotion. Let's see. Ampullae lorenzini. Ampullae lorenzini. Okay, they form a network of mucus-filled pores of the skin of cartilaginous fishes. Okay, so I thought they had it, but okay. So rays do have this sense. So this is a really cool sense that is able to detect electromagnetic fields. So sharks, rays, and chimeras have it, and then some fishes like reed fishes, sturgeon, and lungfishes also have it, which is really cool. So sorry, I just wanted to double check that as we compare sharks and rays. But anyway. So here is a ray living a benthic lifestyle, so sitting in the seabed. Here's the hammerhead shark actively looking for it, using its ampullae lorenzini to detect the electromagnetic fields that the ray is giving off. And here we go. So hammerhead shark swimming, propelling itself forward by its caudal fin, whereas the ray, it's trying to move away with undulating its pectoral fins. It's also trying to angle itself where it's trying to sting the hammerhead shark, and the hammerhead shark is trying to angle itself where it's not going to get hit by the stinger, but instead tries to pin the ray down. So it's actually a pretty thrilling battle. It's cool to see the shark is clearly trying to, and this nurse shark is just not helping. This poor ray is trying to hide under all these nurse sharks, which are kind of like these big sofas, if you will, and then. And it's kind of amazing, actually. It's a great demonstration of how well rays move. So they don't have the forward momentum of the pectoral fin, the caudal fin, but they still move surprisingly really well, and they're very agile just using their pectoral fins. And of course, the hammerhead shark captures it, and it feels like the ray is a little bit more agile than a hammerhead shark, although hammerheads are one of the most I was about to say acrobatic, but hammerheads are some of the most flexible sharks where they can make these incredibly sharp turns, and that's actually probably a helpful adaptation for hunting animals like rays. So really incredible clip of kind of seeing how these two animals are interacting. Um, and I know it's a predation event, so poor Ray. And it's also kind of funny that it's a shark channel that is seeing how it's in the Ray special. The shark is murking the Ray, but it is actually a great clip comparing how the two animals move. How they have some similarities. You can kind of see that cartilaginous fish feel, but they also have some differences, very noticeable differences, like how they are propelled, whereas hammerhead sharks, like all sharks, are propelled by the caudal fin, whereas rays are using their pectoral fins to move. Catching up on comments, Howard, rays can really move when pursued by a hammerhead, like a metal detector looking for a signal. Sturgeon are also... sturgeon are not cartilaginous fishes, but they're actually not too far removed from them. And I'm trying to find the right ways. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. They're not cartilaginous fishes. It's a great question, because sturgeon do have a lot of weird overlaps with sharks. They look eerily sometimes, like at a first glance, sturgeon kind of have like a similar sort of feel as far as their dorsal fin, their caudal fins they're very shark-like in terms of how they look, but they are truly bony fish. They are a special kind of bony fish. It's actually a little bit more primitive, which is kind of cool. So, as comparison, let me pull up a sturgeon. So these are truly bony fish, but you can see some of the weird features. Where they have kind of the very pronounced dorsal fin, anal fin, pelvic fins. They're pointed, and they actually don't really look like they have the rays. They're kind of covered with skin, so it is almost like shark-like in appearance. But these are a special kind of and a primitive kind of bony fish with these really cool scutes. Like this armored plating. So sturgeon are some of the oldest fishes in the world, evolutionarily speaking. So it's not surprising that they have Ampullae lorenzini. I didn't know that they did, but it kind of makes sense because it's more of an ancient group, which is really cool. So Ampullae lorenzini relates to... Oh yeah, absolutely, Howard. So primitive looking with the barbels. Yeah, they're really cool animals, and unfortunately in the bay, in the Chesapeake Bay, sturgeon populations have crashed. So it's a very rare event to see one. I have never seen one in the wild. I would be thrilled to see a sturgeon. I might have seen like a baby sturgeon. There was a little fish in the James River I ran into that I wasn't quite sure what it was, but other than that, I've never seen one in the wild. I've heard of some washing up, but they're really cool fish, and it would be really cool. It would be wonderful if their populations were to rebound. It would take a lot of time to build them up. So, but we're gonna take a look at all the 4 major orders of rays, and I think on that first article they had them laid out. There's a couple different ways to classify rays, but if you look at how rays and sharks evolved, and I think this is the most recent iteration. So you have Chondrichthyans, which is the class right here, and it is split into these 2 groups: the holocephalans, so the chimeras out here, and then the elazobranchs. The elazobranchs split into the sharks, which we know and love over here, and then the batoids, which are the rays. The most basal form of rays are the skates, the Rajiformes, and we could actually probably start with them first. They split off from these other groups, which include the electric rays, which are really cool animals that are able to electrocute you. And then these 2 other groups here, so the Rhinopristiformes, which are the sawfishes and the guitar fishes, and then the classic Myliobatiformes, which are the classic stingrays, eagle rays, manta rays. So I think what we'll do is we'll start out with the skates, which I think I have them here, and then we'll kind of work our way through. So, Rajiformes, skates. Rajiformes is one of the 4 orders in the clade BATOMORPHI, often referred to as a superorder Batoita, flattened cartilaginous fishes related to sharks. Rajiformes are distinguished by the presence of greatly enlarged pectoral fins, which reach as far forward as the sides of the head, with a generally flattened body. The undulatory pectoral fin motion diagnostics taxon is known as rajiform locomotion. The eyes and spiracles are located on the upper surface of the head, and the gill slits are on the underside of the body. Most species give birth to live young, although some lay eggs enclosed in a horny capsule known as the mermaid's purse. As far as the sides of the head. So, the distinguishing feature for skates, which I didn't quite realize, is the pectoral fins. They're not only fused to the head, but they actually encompass the head. They surround the head. So that's something that is distinguishing about them. The other thing I always heard about skates is that they don't have a stinger. So they are kind of like the safe rays. Like you could swim with a skate completely safely. So although they have these really cool, depending on the species, they have these really cool thorns on the back. So, and sometimes they have these transparent spaces kind of in between the chondrocranium here. So they're a pretty interesting group. Skates are pretty populous where I am in the wintertime. It's kind of a group of wintertime animals, although in the summer we still have the clear-nose skate and the little skate. Clear-nose skate probably being the most common. So, like they said, skates give live birth, but many of them lay eggs. So these are actually skate eggs with viable embryos. You've probably seen these on the beach. These are mermaid's purses, and this is what it looks like for a skate to hatch from its egg. Beautifully, beautiful little skate, ready to go, burying himself directly in the seabed right there. There's one cool little detail about this clip, by the way, in terms of how skates are born. And I'll zoom in to show this. So you can see how the tail is actually undulating within the egg. So this is something that I believe all skates do this, and I think some sharks may do this too. But the wiggling of the tail is a adaptation to help circulate water inside the egg, to basically help circulate oxygen. So it's kind of like a fan. So they're doing this to help themselves breathe and create kind of a flow of water or movement of water into and out of the egg case. So it's a way to help them have some kind of like water pumping over their gills. And it's kind of cool to see in this clip that the skate does this swish of the tail as kind of a reflex. But then now that it's out in the open, it's okay. It doesn't have to do that anymore. But really cool adaptation. So skates just kind of like wiggling their tails inside the egg to help themselves breathe. If they wouldn't do that, they might suffocate if they didn't have that feature. So it's really cool that it's an interesting adaptation that they have for circulation. So this is a baby skate. Little skate is the species name. Skates occupy a wide variety of habitats. So some of them, the ones that I'm familiar with are shallow water, but these have some really cool deep water skates. So here's a clip of a deep water skate with deep water eggs. So these are the same kind of concept, but this is a slow moving. I'm not sure what species this is, but it's a slow moving skate. This is actually really cool seeing a robotic arm collecting or showing a skate egg. And this might be the same species over here in this clip, but this is a kind of deep water skate. So very slow moving, floating in the water column. No stinger on the tail. And then, like the article said, the pectoral fins are fused very distinctly around the head, encompassing the head. And you can see two very enlarged spiracles behind the eyes to help it breathe. I always think of skates as having pretty large pelvic fins too. I find that skates typically have like enlarged pelvic fins. They're actually pretty mobile. Beautiful showcase of how this skate, and then like all rays, is undulating its pectoral fins to move. And then here's one partially buried. And again, these have no stingers, so these are pretty safe animals to be around. I don't think I've ever heard of a dangerous kind of skate, so no ads. Sorry. As far as skate conservation goes, wide variety of species. So these three on the top seem to be doing good. The Mid-Atlantic skate, blue pygmy skate, and Richardson's skate are all least concern. Barn door skate is least concern, which is wonderful. I heard that these skates were not doing so well, so it's wonderful to see that that's actually a globally least concerned species. It's fantastic. A couple other skates here. I'm going to shout out the endangered or critically endangered ones. You have the common blue skate, the big-nosed fan skate, the winter skate, which is, this one is actually native to the east coast of North America too, so that's sad to see that. Endangered Norwegian skate. Who else is on here? Clear nose skate is doing well, so it's wonderful to see that this species that I'm personally very familiar with. It's a least concerned animal, so really great to see. Quite a few species actually. Graytail skate is endangered. There's a lot more here, but a lot of them actually seem comparatively okay, which is great. It's actually wonderful to see an order of rays that is actually comparatively... Rough skin skate is endangered, but for the most part, skates might be okay. Korean skate is critically endangered. But for the most part, a lot of these are least concerned or nearly threatened. They're not really... It seems like skates are not maybe really seeing the conservation impacts that other kinds of rays are having. So, how we got plenty of them up here. Awesome. Yep. So they're cold. The ones that I'm used to, they're very cold water animals. So it's actually really cool to see. Many of these are new to me. Such an alien life form. Which is, it's so cool. I don't really spend a lot of time with the rays, so it's fun to see just how many varieties there are. So 600 is incredible. It outdoes the sharks in terms of biodiversity, which is so cool. But yeah, skates are fun. Where I kind of tend to think of rays as tropical, and skates as more like rays as warm water and skates as cold water. And where I live in the Chesapeake Bay, that's certainly the case. Where the rays come in the summertime, just like the Conroe-Nicholls, like the Conroe-Nicholls sharks, like bull sharks and sandbar sharks, like they'll come in the summertime, and a lot of the rays come in the summertime. These are all typically tropical animals, and then when the water gets cold, they leave. The lamniforms come in, so you have like white shark, not in the bay, but like white sharks come down the coast. Poor beagles are here. And then on the ray side, you have the skates, like the clear nose skate, and actually clear nose skates are here throughout the year, but you have like barn door skate comes in the winter, and the winter skate too. So, yep, really cool group. What's next? So it's great to see the skates seem to be doing okay. The next group to compare is probably the electric rays. So I'm very excited to talk about this fun group of fishes. So the electric rays are a group of rays, flattened cartilaginous fish with large pectoral fins, composing the order Torpediniformes. They are known for being capable of producing an electric discharge ranging from 8 to 220 volts, depending on the species, used to stun prey and for defense. There are 69 species and 4 families. Perhaps the best known members are those of the genus Torpedo. The torpedo undersea weapon is named after it. Oh my gosh, that's actually, I never knew that. So that's kind of wild. So the torpedo that we all know is named after this kind of ray, the torpedo ray, which is wild. The name comes from Latin torpere, to be stiffened or paralyzed from the effect of someone who touches the fish. So really incredible. And I see a little thing on folklore. I'm going to click on it in a little bit. But these rays are really fun, where they have these enlarged electric organs kind of behind the eyes and behind the spiracles too. So there's these patches, kind of somewhere between the eyes and pectoral fins. This is where the electric producing organs are. And these rays are really fun, where they kind of look like big pancakes. Like, they're very rounded. So we saw that the skates looked quite pointed, But electric rays typically have more of a rounded shape. They look like maybe a skillet, if you will. So, which is kind of funny. This one I really love, the lesser electric ray. This is a probably one of the first electric rays I was familiar or became familiar with. There we go. Here is a diagram of the electric organs for the torpedo ray. So I have heard from colleagues that this can knock you on your butt. This can really take you out. I don't think it can kill you, but I have heard from colleagues that this can really mess up your day as far as the amount of electricity you receive from these rays, which is kind of wild. So, and then a diagram on kind of the electroproducing cells. And I wonder if we can learn more about how this kind of works. So, fun if you don't mess with them. Yeah, I just saw that. Also, I love this comment. The Shagreen skate has an unfortunate moniker. I agreed. So, really insightful comment, by the way. Shagreen, of course, being named for the sandpaper-like material made from shark skin. So, but let's see if we can learn more about the anatomy. A pair of kidney-shaped electric organs are at the base of pectoral fins. Let's see. They're found from shallow coastal waters down to at least 1,000 meters deep. They're sluggish and slow-moving, propelling themselves with their tails, not by using their pectoral fins as other rays do. Interesting. Let's see. History of research. I'm really excited about this. The electrogenic properties of electric rays have been known since antiquity, although their nature was not understood. The ancient Greeks used electric rays to numb the pain of childbirth and operations. Wow. In his dialogue Meno, Plato has the character Meno accuse Socrates of stunning people with his puzzling questions in a manner similar to the way the torpedo fish stuns with electricity. Scribonius Largus, a Roman physician, recorded the use of torpedo fish for treatment of headaches and gout in his Compositions Medicae of 46 AD. In the 1770s, the electric organs of the torpedo ray were the subject of the Royal Society papers by John Walsh and John Hunter. These appear to have influenced the thinking of Luigi Galvani and Alessandro Volta, the founders of electrophysiology and electrochemistry. Henry Cavendish proposed that electric rays use electricity. He built an artificial ray consisting of fish-shaped Leyden jars that successfully mimicked their behavior in 1773. Very excited to read about biology. Here we go. Folklore, torpedo fish, electric ray, appears continuously in pre-modern natural histories as a magical creature. Its ability to develop fishermen without seeming to touch them was a significant source of evidence for belief in the occult qualities of nature during the ages before the discovery of electricity as an explanatory mode. So, I never knew so much. There's so much going on with torpedo rays. It's so cool. Bioelectricity, and I'd love to, I think depending on how much we learn, I'd kind of love to take a side tangent to electric fish. The electric rays have specialized electric organs. Many species of rays and skates outside the family have electric organs in the tail. However, the electric ray has two large kidney-shaped electric organs on each side of its head, where current passes from the lower to the upper surface of the body. The nerves that signal the organ of discharge branch repeatedly, then attach to the lower side of each plaque in the batteries. These are composed of hexagonal columns closely packed in a honeycomb formation. Each column consists of 500 to more than 1,000 plaques of modified striated muscle adapted from the branchial gill arch muscles. In marine fish, these batteries are connected as a parallel circuit, whereas freshwater batteries are arranged in a series. This allows freshwater rays to transmit discharges of higher voltage, as freshwater cannot conduct electricity as well as saltwater. With such a battery, the electric ray may electrocute larger prey with a voltage between 8 volts in some narcinids to 220 volts in torpedo nobiliana, the Atlantic torpedo. Interesting. So, I'd love to click on electric fish just to see what we can learn. Let's see. Electric fish produce their electrical fields from an electric organ. This is made up of electrocytes, modified muscle or nerve cells specializing in producing strong electric fields used to locate prey, for defense against predators, and for signaling such as courtship. Electric organ discharges are two types, pulse and wave, and vary both by species and function. Let's see. All fishes, indeed all vertebrates, use electrical signals in their nerves and muscles. Cartilaginous fishes and some other basal groups use passive electrolocation with sensors that detect electric fields. The platypus and echidna have separately evolved this ability. Oh. Let's see. I'm curious about electric organs. Electric organs vary widely among electric fish groups. They evolved from excitable, electrically active tissues that make use of action potentials for their function. Most derive from muscle tissues, but in some groups the organ derives from nerve tissues. The organ may lie along the body's axis, as in the electric eel. Let's see. The electric organs are made up of electrocytes, large flat cells that create and store electrical energy, awaiting discharge. So I was curious how this all works. So electric organs are made up of electrocytes, large flat cells that create and store electrical energy awaiting discharge. The anterior ends of these cells react to stimuli from the nervous system and contain sodium channels. The posterior end contains sodium-potassium pumps. Electrocytes become polar when triggered by a signal from the nervous system. So, if I'm reading that correctly, if a ray sees a prey item and is locking in on it, or if someone touches one of these rays, that is the signal and the discharge will happen. Neurons release the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. This triggers acetylcholine receptors to open and sodium ions to flow into electrocytes. The influx of positively charged sodium ions causes the cell membranes to depolarize slightly. This in turn causes the gated sodium channels at the anterior end of the cell to open, and a flood of sodium ions enters the cell. Consequently, the anterior end of the electrocyte becomes highly positive, while the posterior end, which continues to pump out sodium ions, remains negative. This sets up a potential difference, a voltage, between the ends of the cell. After the voltage is released, the cell membranes go back to their resting potentials until they are triggered again. So in a weird way, this is super cool. In a weird way, it's similar to like jellyfish, where when jellyfish are touched, they release the stimuli causes a reaction to release the harpoons. So you have these like tiny harpoons that sting you, and that's how they do their sting. But it's a stimuli that creates that effect, and then they reset once the stimuli is gone. So similarly, if you have a stimuli, like you touch one of these rays, it will discharge, you get electrocuted, and then it will reset, which is so cool. I'm curious. Let's see. Predator behavior. I'm going to click on the Atlantic torpedo really quick because I am curious. I've heard that these are rather dangerous. Let's see. This is the big one. So the Atlantic torpedo, which is actually native to here. So I don't know if my wife was watching, but we do have these. So these live here. But these, I think, are the worst as far as the amount of electricity they produce. And I'm curious if there's been any incidents, human interactions. Here we go. Okay, so though seldom life-threatening, the electric discharge of a land torpedo is quite severe and may be enough to knock a person unconscious. However, a greater danger to divers is the disorientation that follows the shock. The Atlantic torpedo is of no commercial value, as this means it's probably tasteless. It's incidentally, yeah. Let me double check where these live, because that's a good note for a diver such as myself. Oh, they live all over the east coast of the United States and the Caribbean. Good to know, and the Mediterranean. Oh my gosh, good to know. So yeah, I've never seen one of these in the wild. Where do these live actually? Atlantic torpedo is widely distributed in cool waters on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. In the east, it is found from northern Scotland. Juvenile Atlantic torpedoes are primarily bottom-dwelling and usually found at depths of 10 to 50 meters over sandy or muddy flats or near coral reefs. As they mature, they become more pelagic in habits, and adults are often encountered swimming in the open ocean. This species has been recorded from the surface to a depth of 800 meters in the Mediterranean. So, very, very cool animal. Let's see. I'll live with the cow, thanks. They take up nearly half the disc. Really, really, truly incredible animals. And fortunate enough that we're able to find some clips of how some electric rays act. So here is an encounter of a diver with an electric ray. And that looks like an Atlantic torpedo or a torpedo ray of some kind. But here is yeah, I think that is actually an Atlantic torpedo. It is definitely some kind of electric ray right here. So, again, kind of looks like a pancake, very round, getting way too close to this diver. And this diver probably does not know what it's encountering. So the diver gets too close, is going to touch it. And then he gets the shock. So and like it's amazing that it went through his gloves too. So like it's he got the shock right there. So you don't you never want to touch wildlife just out of respect for nature and out of respect for wildlife. But yeah, it looks cute and squishy and pettable, but it is definitely firstly like just never touch animals to begin with. But secondly, this is actually a rather dangerous ray, and it's good that he has this relatively protective gear. It's kind of funny that the ray was settling right in front of him, but yeah, these touches are too much, and there he goes. He gets electrocuted. So looks like it wasn't too bad, but he definitely felt it. So a couple other interesting examples of the ray makes zero attempt to flee. Conscious underwater equals life threatening. Yes, I would be nervous swimming with one of these. I like these would be a little freaky to run into. Really cool though. This is interesting. This is a electric ray eating a fish, and eating a fish that is a little bit too big for it. So, or maybe electrocuting it. Maybe that was like a threat thing going on. But cute little ray, completely immobilized that. I don't know if that's a prey item or something else was going on, because that fish looks way too big for this ray. But clearly there's a wild interaction going on here where the electric ray is aggressively immobilizing that fish. That fish is knocked out. So I'm not sure what that behavior was. So also great adorable view of the ray using its caudal fin to move. So it's very cute, very dangerous, small but mighty. Here's another example. I think we get to see an electric ray stunning a fish. So this is a different species, but you can see look at that fish knocked out. So the camera will go back to it. This is a beautiful species right here. But the fish is completely paralyzed. So completely inverted, alive, but electrocuted by the ray. So. And then finally, we have a Pacific electric ray, so a deep water ray. So kind of another cool example that rays of all kinds, so the skates that we saw earlier and now electric rays, they live in both shallow and deep water habitats. So very cool to see one of these animals hovering mid-water. Pretty large caudal fin too. So, and a great note that these rays really hold their pectoral fins out more stiffly and just move by their enlarged caudal fin, kind of like a shark. Whereas all other rays, or not all other rays, but many other rays move just by undulating their pectoral fins. So. Really great images. Really, I love the beautiful, kind of like speckly pattern on this animal. You getting closer to it, you can kind of see its eyes a little bit too. You can also see the spiracles right behind the eyes, opening and closing. And it's really exciting that this ray is swimming towards the camera. Nice view of the underside. You can actually see a couple of gills poking through. But it's fun seeing this ray patrol the seabed and kind of bumping into these rocks, and I'm not sure why. Maybe might be going after like little fishes or little prey items here, or maybe it's a little bit disoriented too. So, as far as electric rays go, let's see how they're doing conservation wise. So, he's got the top three here: Western Atlantic torpedo ray, which is the most or one of the. Is this the same one? The Atlantic torpedo. Hold on. Tetonarse nobiliana. Oh, okay. So Western Atlantic torpedo ray and Great torpedo ray is Tetronarse nobiliana. Both of them are doing least concern, so they're doing completely fine, which is great. So it's wonderful to see that these two electric rays are doing great. I thought electric rays were not well off, so it's actually wonderful to see that all six of these species, with the exception of the Elliott sleeper ray, are doing relatively okay conservation-wise, so it's wonderful. Let's see if there's anybody who's endangered. So we got the Tonkin numbfish is endangered. The panther torpedo is endangered. West African torpedo is endangered. Rosette torpedo is endangered. The Red Sea torpedo is critically endangered. Chinese fan ray is endangered. Aden torpedo is endangered. Argentine torpedo is critically endangered. So I would say, as a group, this group of rays is actually doing worse than the skates. It looks like the skates were proportionally better off, and the torpedo rays, they still have quite a few animals that are, or quite a few species that are least concerned or near threatened, but there's a more substantial number of them that are actually endangered or critically endangered. So interesting to note as far as that goes. So, yep. Speaking of critically endangered, I think the next group that we'll be discussing is the Rhinopristiformes. So this is some kind of the inspiration for this episode, because we saw some stunning examples in one of our shark streams. So these are the guitar fishes, also known as the rhino rays, and also the saw fishes. So, Rhinopristiformes is an order of rays, cartilaginous fishes related to sharks, containing shovel-nosed rays and allied groups. So not much of a description here, but characteristics. They generally exhibit slow growth, late maturity, and low fecundity. Alone or in combination, such features causes fishes in this group to be susceptible to extinction. So this includes, so we talked about how it includes guitar fishes like this one, but it also includes sawfishes, which are probably, arguably, the most critically endangered group of elasmobranchs. So, Rhinopristiformes are more prone to being caught in many different types of fishing equipment, including trawl, gill net, seine net, and hook and line. They are caught for their meat, but most importantly, their fins. While their meat is mostly consumed locally, the white fins are a delicacy and highly sought after. They are the most valuable part of Rhinopristiformes, therefore their fins are in high demand. Both the combination of overfishing and the high desire for their fins has caused the Rhinopristiformes population to rapidly decline. I am curious about the conservation here, so let's see. The Halavi guitarfish, critically endangered. The large two sawfish, critically endangered. Green sawfish, critically endangered. These seem to be doing okay, not okay, but wow, look at this. A lot of these animals are not doing great. bowmouth guitarfish, white spotted wedgefish, small tooth sawfish, black chin guitarfish, Taiwanese wedgefish, Borneo guitarfish, giant guitarfish, short-nosed guitarfish, holo guitarfish, wow, ring guitarfish, African wedgefish, clown wedgefish, spineback guitarfish, white spotted guitarfish. Look at all of these. These are really, this is a really severely impacted group. Philippine guitarfish, sharp-nosed guitarfish, bottlenose wedgefish, false shark ray, Jimbaran guitarfish, Indonesian guitarfish, wide-nosed guitarfish, narrow sawfish, brown guitarfish, oh my goodness, Bengal guitarfish, broad-nosed wedgefish, Japanese wedgefish, smoothback guitarfish, Brazilian guitarfish. This is horrible. So this is really sobering to see just how endangered this group of animals is. It's really frightening. There's no single order of sharks that has proportionally as many critically endangered species as this order of rays, sadly. So I'm going to dive into the conservation details in a second, but just as a kind of a reminder of like what these animals are, some of these are just incredibly gorgeous, one-of-a-kind, strange-looking rays where they have so many characteristics of sharks. Prominent dorsal fins, very strong and prominent caudal fin. But again, the key characteristic is that the pectoral fins are fused to the side of the head and the gills are on the underside of the body. So it's kind of such an amazing group of animals where they are adapted to a mostly benthic lifestyle, and with the mouth on the underside of their head, they're looking for benthic prey items for the most part. But what a dramatic shape. Look at this. And really cool comparison of a wedgefish or Rhinopristiform with these stingrays on the left. Those are Myliobatiformes. These guys get to be huge. Here's a really cool one. This is another kind of wedgefish. This one has more of a blunt snout, kind of a more rounded, more robust head. Sorry, it's a very short clip. Beautiful animal. And you can see how it's easy to confuse this with a shark. But again, it's the fused fin. The fins that are fused to the head, the pectoral fins fused to the head, are the giveaway that it's a ray. There's a clip of a sawfish, which is in the same order. These guys are really cool. So we actually do have sawfish in Chesapeake Bay, but they're extremely rare. They do live on the east coast of the United States. But very, very rare group of animals. Really cool. They have evolved this very long proboscis with these saw-like teeth. And they use it to, and this one is actually going to do this, to kind of like swing it like a baseball bat in the hopes of like grabbing a fish. So really incredible how that sawfish went into that school. And I'll play that again. So the sawfish right here is hunting somewhere in the bait ball. And these guys get to be huge. They get to be about 14 feet. So it's roughly like 3 meters, maybe 4. But they get to be pretty large animals. Amazing, like just like the swim of the saw is breaking up that school. We actually have a more detailed clip. We might have seen this before, but a sawfish just using its saw to pin down, just pin down prey item. And actually, what they'll do too is they'll hold prey with the tip of the saw, and then they'll kind of like move across it So they'll move in such a way where the prey item will be at the tip of the snout, and then the saw blades will cut across as the fish continues to swim, and it's getting closer and closer to the mouth. So this is actually a really cool clip where it's documenting sawfish feeding patterns and sawfish feeding behaviors. So, and again, pectoral fin is fused to the head, and the gills on the underside of the body. So it is a ray, but you can tell. It's hard to tell. I mean, you can tell they're related to sharks. Clearly, they have a lot of shark-like qualities, but it is a ray based on that anatomy. It gets very confusing, of course, with saw sharks, which we've compared before. Sawfish versus saw sharks. But sawfish are the rays, which are these animals. And then saw sharks have their pectoral fins free of their head, and their gills on the side of the head. So, beautiful clip of sawfish just handling these prey items with the sawbill and passing them into the mouth. Such an incredible animal. So I do want to learn more about... Let's take a look at two species in particular. The large tooth sawfish and I think the small tooth sawfish. So, because these are ones that are kind of near and dear to my heart. I agree, Howard. Very sad, just the conservation status of this group. And again, Rhinopristiformes is the most. It's the most critically endangered group of elasmobranchs, arguably. There's no other group that has proportionally as many critically endangered species. On the shark side, maybe angel sharks, if we're talking about an order, like if we're talking about an order of sharks, maybe the angel sharks, but overall, it's very sad to see just what's going on with the conservation in general. So, and this is a really complex range map. These are a little bit uncommon on IUCN Red List, but we'll take a look. So, because this is mapping different distributions of the species, and actually, I might be getting this confused with a different species, but we'll still take a look at this because this is good detail. So, the gold is where it is extant, where it is currently living. So gold is extant, meaning it's still here. The gray is presence uncertain. We don't know if it lives here or not still. So it looks like in South America, in Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Guyana. Oh, actually, wait a minute. Oh, sad. So it looks like in Colombia, it's actually possibly extinct in Colombian shores. So it's extant in Venezuela, but possibly extinct in Colombia, which is extremely sad. It's probably fishing practices, fisheries management, or lack thereof. It's possibly extinct in the west coast of Africa, except when you get to Senegal and Guinea. It looks like it's doing okay in Madagascar and Mozambique. Looks like it's doing okay. Looks like it is possibly extinct in Somalia. Looks like it's doing well in India. Then possibly extinct in Cambodia and Vietnam and parts of Malaysia. So critically endangered species. The large-toothed sawfish is a large euryhaline shark-like ray with a widespread circumtropical distribution comprising 4 subpopulations: the Western Atlantic, Eastern Pacific, Eastern Atlantic, and Indo-West Pacific. The species occurs at depths of 0 to 60 meters, with juveniles occupying freshwater and estuarine habitats, and adults occurring in both estuarine and coastal waters. It is taken as bycatch and was historically targeted in commercial and small-scale fisheries and often retained for its meat and fins. So one thing that's immediately apparent is, as part of the conservation problem, is the fact that the juveniles occupy freshwater estuarine habitats. These are often habitats of high, and especially tropical parts of the world, high human impact, and so lots of opportunity for interaction between humans and the most vulnerable part of the population for the species, which are the juveniles. Historically, its fins were considered among the most highly valued in the shark fin trade, and its high value drove demand and increased exploitation of the species over the past decades throughout its range. Habitat loss and the morphology of the rostrum, which makes them susceptible to capture in fishing gear, have also driven declines independently of trade. So, unfortunately, the sawbill gets tangled up in nets very easily, which has been a horrible thing for this species. International trade of all sawfish species was prohibited in 2007 and 2013, with their listing on Appendix 1 of the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna CITES. However, illegal trade continues, especially for their rostra in Central and South America, but in some areas also for their meat and fins. All subpopulations have undergone severe historic and ongoing steep population reductions due to overexploitation and habitat loss and degradation, with significant range contractions across their distribution. The species is now possibly extinct in 19 of its 60 former range states, and in 14 range states, its presence is currently uncertain due to limited survey effort or recent sightings. Despite protection in at least 17 of its range states, threats are ongoing and population decline is continuing. Based on limited catch data of information, or information on abundance trends inferred from reports of capture records and local ecological knowledge, populations have undergone high levels of decline over the past 3 generation lengths, which is 68 years. Overall, it is inferred the large tooth sawfish has undergone an over 80% population reduction over the last 3 generation lengths due to overexploitation, habitat degradation, reductions in extent of occurrence, and it is assessed as critically endangered. So, very sad and very important to know. This species is not doing well. It's probably the most. I would say the sawfishes are probably the most in need of conservation support as far as the lazarings go. As far as conservation support, let's see what we have done so far as far as protection for the species. Excuse me. Through proposals made in 2007 and 2013, all 5 sawfish species are now listed on Appendix 1 of the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species. This is actually really great, because most sharks, for the longest time, could only get Appendix 2. Appendix 1 is like the best status you could get as far as protection, which essentially bans commercial international trade in sawfishes and their parts. In 2014, all sawfishes were added to Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention of Migratory Species, or CMS, which obligates parties to act nationally and cooperate regionally to strictly protect the species. All sawfishes were added to Annex 1 of the CMS Memorandum of Understanding in 2016, which aims to facilitate regional conservation of the species. In 2012, the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean banned retention and mandated careful release of the large-toothed sawfish listed on the Barcelona Convention Annex 2 of the Protocol concerning specially protected areas and biological diversity in the Mediterranean. Implementation by GFCM parties, however, has been very slow. Large-toothed sawfish were added to Annex 2 of the Protocol for Specially Protected Areas and Wildlife, or SPA Protocol, of the Convention for the Protection and Development of the Marine Environment for the wider Caribbean region, the Cartagena Convention in 2017-2019 respectively. These listings obligate parties to grant large-toothed sawfish strict protections, including through bans on take or trade. Despite these many binding international treaty mandates, large-toothed sawfish remain inadequately protected in a great number of countries where basic regulations are lacking and or poorly enforced. A 2018 analysis identified 4 priority regions for concerted international sawfish conservation priority action, or policy action: the Caribbean, Amazon Delta, Western Indian Ocean, and Australasia. Yan et al. Underscore the urgent need for domestic sawfish protections, particularly by nations where large-toothed sawfish presence is uncertain, low, or declining, yet extinction probability is low. 4 nations are prioritized for specialized surveys and strong legal protections: Mexico, Panama, Brazil, Madagascar, and Sri Lanka. countries where large-toothed sawfish were still regularly found that failed to apply species-specific prohibitions on killing, retention, sale, and trade, for example, Papua New Guinea, are also considered priorities for conservation action. Species-specific protection of large-toothed sawfish exists in at least 17 countries. That is Australia, Bangladesh, Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Guinea, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mexico, Nicaragua, Pakistan, Panama, Peru, Senegal, and South Africa. However, enforcement of these protections laws is generally poor. This is unfortunately very, I don't want to say it's common, but in certain countries this is a major issue when it comes to sharks. A lot of sharks, specifically the smaller kinds of hammerheads, run into this issue. It's really sad to see the sawfishes are running into this issue too. Other potential large-toothed sawfish range states that still lack national protections include Honduras, Peru, Somalia, Madagascar, and Mozambique, as well as a proponent of the CMS and site sawfish listing proposals, Kenya. Australia, where large-toothed sawfish are still present and relatively well protected, is considered a lifeboat country. Oh, let me rephrase that, or reread that. Australia, where large-toothed sawfish are still present and relatively well protected, is considered a lifeboat country, but relaxation of key safeguards would immediately threaten these populations. So shout out again to Australia. Many shark species, this is kind of like their home base, where Australia has a lot of good conservation laws for many shark species, and many shark species do well in Australia, whereas they don't do well in other parts of the Indo-Pacific. It's like a species will have an Indo-Pacific range that includes Australia and New Zealand too. But Australia, for whatever reason, Australia, because of its conservation policies, has actually been a great place as far as sharks go, and as far as their protection goes. It's not the first time we've seen it come up multiple times, as far as a place like a country of policies that are very shark friendly comparatively. So go Australia! Really appreciate Australia's effort in protecting sharks. In addition to species-specific legal protections, large-toothed sawfish recovery requires minimization of bycatch and associated mortality, as well as conservation of important coastal habitats. Effective enforcement of such safeguards requires ongoing educational initiatives, training, and including the area of species identification and other capacity-building efforts. In these areas, there is room for improvement in every large-toothed sawfish range state. Better monitoring of large-toothed sawfish catches, including in artisanal fisheries, and expanded research programs are also needed to help understand population trends and inform management. The multilateral environmental agreements that have already listed sawfishes as species warranting strict protections can provide valuable platforms for facilitating sawfish recovery at regional and global scales, but targeted initiatives to do so have not yet been developed. This inaction demonstrates that ongoing public, political, and financial support is also integral to preventing further large-toothed sawfish extinction. So I know that was a lot to read, but it's very important because this is, again, it's kind of the equivalent of the giant panda as far as sharks and rays go. Sawfishes are really, really not doing well at all. So it's important to highlight their conservation needs. So. Also, Rory, welcome back. Oh, Howard, wait. We have some of these guys at Ripley's Aquarium. Oh my gosh, amazing. That's protect sawfish at all costs. I'm going to star that. Thank you. Stop finning now. Yes, absolutely. Australia back at it again. Yes. So Australia's been amazing as far as shark and ray conservation. Speaking of rays, Roy, I don't know if you may have missed the beginning, so I'm going to just do a quick tour of the rays that we talked about so far in our ray special. Oh, not this one. So we talked about skates. So this is actually probably my favorite clip of the skates that we've seen. So this is a skate hatching from an egg. And we talked about how skates, when they're inside their eggs, actually are wiggling their tails to help circulate water to help with their respiration. So this is actually a little skate being born. It's literally a little skate. That's the species name. So we got to learn more about this group, which they don't have spines or like stingers. They don't have stingers like stingrays do. And their kind of distinguishing feature is that their pectoral fins are not only fused to the head, but they actually are very large and kind of envelop the head. So we learned a lot about Rajiformes, is the name of this group. We then learned about torpedo rays or electric rays. These guys are extremely cool and rather dangerous, where they actually produce electricity, and this is where we get the word torpedo from. So the actual word torpedo, like the weapons that humans use, torpedoes, actually come from this genus, torpedo, and that actually comes from the Latin word for stopping it in your tracks and referring to the electrocution. So these rays produce electricity, and this diver is about to find out. So these rays actually have these special electric organs right behind their head, and if they're stimulated, like this diver is stimulating right now, it's going to discharge and electrocute them. And you can see the diver gets electrocuted by the electric organs. So this is an Atlantic torpedo, or maybe not Atlantic torpedo, but it is a kind of torpedo ray. But torpedo rays are the order Torpediniformes, and that includes all kinds of electric rays, like numbfishes, So the third group that we were just talking about were Rhinopristiformes. So these are the sawfishes and wedgefishes. So we were just talking about the large tooth sawfish. And this might be a small tooth sawfish, but this is a kind of sawfish hunting in the wild using its really incredible rostrum. The distinguishing feature of these animals is that they either have like the elongated sawtooth bill, or they have kind of like a shark-like body as far as the two large dorsal fins, but their pectoral fins are fused to their head. So really great shot of a sawfish whacking some fishes. And in the same order, let me see if I can replay this clip. Oh no, not this one. I think it's this last one. In the same order, there's this really cool group of rays called the wedgefishes. So these are a kind of ray. This is a cousin of a sawfish. They're in the same order as sawfishes, so Rhinopristiformes. But these are truly rays. They're these massive rays with these very intimidating looking appearances. So it's just such a cool group of animals. And it was the inspiration for tonight's ray special, where we saw a clip of this animal a couple of streams ago, and it just was like, wow, like it'll be really cool to learn more about the different orders of rays. So we've gone 3 so far. We've got Rajiformes, Torpediniformes, and Rhinopristiformes, and then we're gonna finish tonight with the last order. And we're actually seeing it right here in this shot, the stingrays. So we'll talk about Myliobatiformes in a little bit. So, but that's where we are so far on our ray special tonight. I think we'll wrap it up with the classic. So, Tony Hawk's pancakes, yeah. Torpedo rays are a sight to behold. It's really cool seeing a torpedo can be curious and brave enough to approach these divers. So 100%. It's such an interesting group of. I mean, like that clip was really fun, and like I would love to see one in the wild, but like at a safe distance. But it's such an interesting group of animals. I'm fascinated by just animals that are able to produce electricity, and that's actually another distinction. When you think about it, because we were talking about the beginning of this episode, what makes the sharks and rays similar? What makes them different? And that's actually an interesting distinction unique to rays, is that only rays can electrocute other animals. There's no shark that can do that, which is really interesting. Conversely, at the top of the episode, I mentioned that only sharks can hunt marine mammals. As far as when you compare these groups, there's no ray that goes after large prey items like marine mammals. Only sharks do that. So it's kind of cool seeing these differences between these two closely related groups of animals. So the last one is probably the most famous. Skates are pretty famous, but this is probably the most famous. These are the Myliobatiformes, which are the stingrays. They're also inclusive of the manta rays, the eagle rays, but these are like the true rays, and I feel like their distinguishing feature is the stinger. All the species I just named have a stinger. So Myliobatiformes, commonly known as stingrays, are one of the 4 orders of batoids. They are members of the subclass of Elazabranchs. They were formerly included in the order Rajiformes, but in more recent phylogenetic studies have shown that Myliobatiformes to be a monophyletic group, as it is more derived members. And its more derived members evolved their highly flattened shapes independently of the skates. So they share physical characteristics of a long, thin tail of serrated spines and a pancake-like body. They share many characteristics of batoid order Rajiformes, in which they were previously included. The key difference of the orders is the Myliobatiformes' single-lobed pelvic fin, lack of a mid-tail spine, and general lack of a dorsal fin. Myliobatiformes also possess stinging spines along the tail's base, and generally possess large pectoral fins that are completely fused to the head. They can camouflage themselves from predators using their flat, disc-shaped bodies to lie against the seafloor. So, a lot of fun clips. I'm going to start with a stingray. Yeah, we'll do a stingray here. So this is the most famous group. These animals are, for the most part, actually, maybe always, very docile. But unfortunately, people can get too close to them, and they will arch their tails and sting. And they actually have a really wide range. So you never want to get too close to a stingray. Really cool close-up of a southern stingray. So this is probably the species that I'm most familiar with. Although I actually see a lot of Atlantic stingrays in the Chesapeake Bay area. But southern stingrays are in this area too. So these guys use their tails pretty much for defense. This is actually really cool. You get to see it burying itself in the sand. That's so cool. But they use their tails for defense, where if someone accidentally steps on a ray or dives too closely to one, they will whip their tails up and stab or impale that person with the spine. And the spine is also venomous too, which is interesting because we talk about spiny dogfish, which is a shark that actually has venomous spines as well. So that's actually a really cool comparison of Elazabranchs, where these are 2 kinds of Elazabranchs, but they each have a spine that produces venom. So now, dogfish spines have been said to be non-lethal. They're very painful, but you'll live. You'll tough it out. And stingray spines, I don't know if there's any differences between the species, but similarly, I've not heard of. Obviously, there's sadly the lethal Steve Irwin incident, but that was also kind of a freak accident. So I don't know on average, as far as stingray incidents go, how venomous it is. Because also famously, there was an incident with John Smith, of all people. And this is, historically, this is believed to be a true account. But John Smith was this is really random history. But dumb question, because we're familiar with John Smith, right? The explorer of Jamestown, who visited Virginia 400 years ago. The stupid Disney movie, which is so, oh my gosh, that movie is so historically inaccurate. It's really bad. But that John Smith, the Jamestown John Smith, that guy. Oh shoot, Roy. The ray that got Steve was apparently a bull ray. Oh man, that's really sad. Also, yes, I just saw your comment. Massive stingrays, or I literally forgot how massive southern stingrays are. Oh my god. Yes, they get to be huge. And I'm pretty sure. I saw the southern stingray or Atlantic stingray. I think it's probably the Atlantic stingray. But John Smith. Traveled to Virginia, way back when 1607, and helped found Jamestown, the colony Jamestown on the James River, the first English settlement in the first permanent English settlement in North America. And he did a lot of. He actually was a really accomplished explorer, where he documented a lot of the area, made these amazing maps of the Chesapeake Bay, which were kind of mind blowing at the time, and actually even hundreds of years later were mind blowing in terms of how accurate they were. And probably my favorite contribution of John Smith is that he documented language. So the Algonquin language, like Powhatan language, he actually took the time, and this is very precious because a lot of that language is gone. He took the time to write it and kind of identify which words mean which things, and it's one of the few accounts of Powhatan language we have today. So there's a lot of accomplished things that he did, and he also documented everything that he did, and he's been characterized as being a bit over self-indulgent, maybe like there's just he had a weird reputation. But one of my favorite famous John Smith stories is that he went up the Chesapeake Bay and was fishing and caught a stingray, and the stingray stung him, and he was in excruciating pain to the point where he thought he was ready to die. And he actually told his crew to dig a grave for him and give him his last rites and everything. And maybe not last rites, but basically just prepare him for death, because he thought the pain was so excruciating that he thought he was going to die. And then as time went on, he realized he was starting to get better and better. He was starting to feel better, and he recovered. We did not need to use a grave, which is good. And I believe he cooked that stingray for dinner, which is really sad. But that is probably my favorite historical stingray account, is the fact that a stingray from the Chesapeake Bay got John Smith. And of all people, like that John Smith met in a lazarbrink. It's one of the earliest European, North American lazarbrink encounters. So, and that story, I think scholars agree that one is true. There's a lot of stories that are just like, okay, this is a little bit bunk. And specifically, there's a lot of stories about him visiting the Powhatan people that some scholars are like, yeah, I don't know if they really appreciated you, John. I think they may have wanted to kill you. Or like, I don't know. Just like scholars have been dubious about certain accounts that John Smith had. But that story is verified, or not verified, but is believed to be largely accurate. So, which is kind of funny. And it's now like an interesting piece of folklore here in Virginia. So, but that story is probably the most famous story I have about stingrays, as far as like the lethality of the venom, where in that example, John Smith recovered. And again, with Steve Irwin, what happened? It really was a freak accident. It was just so tragic, where he got too close to the bull ray, and it pierced him in an area that just was like it was just a freak accident, that there was nothing that could be done at that point, and it wasn't necessarily the ray's venom, and it was a complete accident. The ray wasn't being aggressive or anything. It just Steve didn't see it. So really, really sad incident. So. The famous thing about rays, whenever you go to the beach, is the stingray shuffle, where if you are walking in the water, anytime you go to the beach, and really any beach, because rays do live everywhere. As far as like popular beach places, if you are, I want to say south of Massachusetts, anywhere that's sandy. Actually, let me rephrase that. Anywhere that's sandy, anywhere that has a sandy beach, you want to do the stingray shuffle, where you basically, when you get in the water, you don't step in, you just kind of slide in, and that way your foot can kind of catch the stingray underneath and kind of lift it up gently, and it can swim away. Because if you step on it, that's really, really dangerous. So. Yeah. And then I guess my last little note, I'm kind of on a stingray tangent. I might have told this story before, but when I used to live in Florida briefly for about a year, and there was a place I would go snorkeling. And I think it was DeSoto National Marine Preserve is where I would usually go, and there's these really cool seagrass meadows. But it's always good to look before you leap, and I dove in very quickly and scared a little ray right underneath me, and he sped away. He was completely fine. He didn't do anything aggressive. He didn't lash his tail or anything, but it was a really scary. Well, not scary, but it was like my first reaction was like, "Oh, that's cool. It's a ray," and my second reaction was like, "Oh, that could have been really bad." So just be careful. They're here. They're really amazing animals, but they're here, and they love to be close to shore. One of my favorite snorkel spots in the Mid-Atlantic region. I've seen rays there often, and I've never seen them underwater. But when I'm walking the shoreline, I see them cruising literally in like inches of water. So they get really really close to shore. And that's in Virginia. So there's a place in Virginia where you can actually see these kinds of like stingrays, Atlantic stingrays specifically, just get very close to shore. This one in this clip is a southern stingray, but Atlantic stingrays can get really really close to shore. Oh yes, absolutely. So rest easy, Mr. Irwin. Like Steve was such a hero. You know, he just I mean, one of a kind is an understatement. So, and I'm so glad that there's so much documentation of him that lives on. That people can enjoy and see. Just the guy, he was amazing. Like there's no words that could describe Steve Irwin. So, rest in peace, and thank you, Rory. I love that comment. So, I also love this southern stingray burying itself. It actually is pretty convincing as a little shoal, really. Also, I didn't notice this behavior, by the way, but look how it's keeping its spiracles open. So these holes behind the eyes, they're actually very large, and they help the stingray breathe as it's sitting down here on the seabed, mimicking a shoal, so waiting for passing prey items to come close to it. So very cool. Now, stingrays are not the only kind of ray here in this order. There are one of my favorite rays, which I've been lucky enough to snorkel with, is the cownose ray. So these guys are really fun. They're very populous in Chesapeake Bay, and they do this behavior where they actually they flap their pectoral fins. This is what they look like underwater. But they flap their pectoral fins near the surface, and people confuse them for sharks because the way the pectoral fins are angled is that you think you see like a brief little shark fin, but in reality it's this ray flapping its fins. So we're going to do one more clip, one more shot of this. But I love these rays. They come by every summer. They're very, very populous, actually. And they love to munch on oysters, and they actually root around the sand for clams, too. So sometimes when you're walking on the beach, or like in kind of like a tide pool, you'll kind of step into like a little crater, and that was made by a cownose ray, rooting through the sand looking for clams. So they're wonderful animals. I really enjoy spending time with them. And they're very popular in aquaria too. So you've probably seen cownose rays in aquariums. They're very popular for Vancouver Aquarium, go Canada. They're very popular in touch tanks. So very very safe, very fun to pet. They have kind of like these faces with a lot of personality, and they're so interesting too because they have this unique feature that it's these kind of like flaps of skin that I don't really know why they're evolved like that, but their mouths are on the other side of their head, and the flaps of skin can. This is what I mean. So you have the head right here, the eyes right here. You have this like strange like lobe right here that this is not their mouth. This is just kind of like this extra flap of skin, and then their mouth is actually underneath that. So hopefully you'll see it in this clip. So I don't know if this helps with feeding, but that's the mouth right there on the underside. So they have these like really funny faces. Yeah, so those are the flap of skins. It's almost kind of like a manta ray's horns kind of unfurling. So it's a very strange little adaptation that these rays have. But they're very cute, and I really enjoy seeing them. It's one of my favorite summertime animals that comes back to shore in the summertime. So. And Countess rays actually can gather into immense schools. So this is a wild school of Countess rays in Playa Viva, Mexico. But really incredible to see. So literally thousands of individuals can be in a single school, which is mind-boggling. As far as the Lazarus go, this is one of the few mass migrations of Lazarus in the world is Countess ray or schools of Countess rays. So um, as far as shark equivalents, maybe schools of deep water lantern sharks or dogfish going after prey items. As far as schooling sharks, you have dogfish sharks and smoothhounds, but I don't think you'll see anything comparable to this as far as the immense number of rays swimming in a formation like this. So one more time, enjoying Countess rays. So again, these are warm water animals that like to migrate up north in the summer and then back down south in the winter. And they're native to the, I think there's actually multiple species around the world, but the one that stops by my neck of the woods is in the Caribbean and moves up to North America in the summer. Or I'm sorry, moves up to the east coast of the U.S. and I wonder. I'd like to check how far north these guys go. So here we go. American Countess ray. Okay, so these guys actually live up to Massachusetts, so Cape Cod, and then you can find it in the Caribbean, and all the way down to Uruguay, and actually Argentina. Amazing. So, one more fact about this ray, because I want to be a friend to the American Countess ray. It's one of my favorite animals. There was a horribly misguided campaign in the Chesapeake Bay that I think has been disbanded, and I hope it has. But I'm going to speak against it just in case. And it was just this terrible thing where fishermen were blaming the Countess rays for declining oyster populations, and they were trying to create a fishery for this animal, and they were trying to promote ray hunting and harpooning and or not harpooning but bow hunting for rays and stuff like that. It was really horrible. I mean, it was this sick campaign that was it was posing as a conservation thing, saying save the bay, eat a ray, but it's complete garbage because ultimately the thing that's hurting a lot of the Chesapeake Bay is human overexploitation. So it's humans overfishing oysters and overfishing blue crabs and overfishing striped bass and overfishing menhaden. And commercially fishing menhaden is a huge issue in the bay, and they used Countess rays as a scapegoat. So they did this, I want to say, in the late 2010s, maybe early 2020s, and I think it's died down. But ultimately, my plug for Countess rays is leave them alone. They're fine. They're not doing anything bad. They unfortunately have been one of many scapegoats. Just environmental history. It's similar to seals. Like people used to hunt seals, because they would view them as competitors. But the reality is, no, it's humans. It's always humans. Overexploiting, overexploiting natural resources. So these rays are completely fine. They're not wrecking your system. They've been here for millennia, and they will continue to be here for millennia. Leave them alone, please. They're your friends, and they're wonderful animals too. They're very, very fun. And they're actually good for the ecosystem too, because not only they're a very important species in the bay ecosystem, but they are good shark food. So a lot of sharks appreciate them. So, um, oh, hammerhead schools, Howard. Yes, good call. As far as schooling the lazarbanks, hammerheads are probably one of the closest examples. So excellent call. So Roy, I've seen countless counters rays in touch tanks. As one of my aquarium combines both a large aquatic exhibit at the bottom, while at the surface it's a touch tank, so the rays can come up as they please. That's so cool. So I want to highlight that, Roy. That's so cool. Because the touch tanks I've seen, unfortunately, and I won't name the aquariums, but there's a couple aquariums that I enjoy them, but the rays don't really have a space to escape from people. So I love that your aquarium combines a large exhibit at the bottom and then a touch tank at the surface, so the rays can electively come up. That's really wonderful and thoughtful as far as the rays' behavior goes, because in other aquariums, sometimes they'll just have the shallow touch tank and that's it. And the rays can get overstimulated, and a lot of them avoid the human hands because they just don't want to be touched anymore. So it's really cool to have that out for them, to make sure that they're doing they're just doing what they want to do, and they're not kind of performing. So speaking of rays, we're going to finish with arguably the most famous ray, which is the manta ray, which we get to see a clip of it breaching. So this is a manta ray breaching. So I would say devil rays are probably the most famous as far as doing this, but it's incredible to see that manta rays do this too, especially as the manta rays get to be enormous. If I'm not mistaken, they are about 20 feet, but I'll have to double check manta ray size. So, but beautiful animals. They are planktivorous, so they're completely harmless. When we were reading articles on ancient shark facts in North America, there was a lot of incidents with manta rays in history, and some of it might be just rumor or hearsay. But there was a rumor, or kind of like a folklore, that I think the word manta comes from the word blanket, or shroud or cloak, and the idea is manta rays allegedly, if somebody is like diving underwater, like pearl diving, a manta ray will allegedly kind of hover over that person and prevent it from coming up to the surface. But I think that's folklore. I don't really think there's a lot behind that. So I'd love to learn more about manta rays to verify that, and we can actually do that in the last couple of minutes we have for tonight's episode. But really cool clip of these guys breaching. They're such incredible animals. And if I'm not mistaken, I think manta rays may be on the more intelligent end of rays. Let's see. Let's see what we can learn about this group. So, we've got 6-gill stingrays, riptail rays, butterfly rays. Oh, butterfly rays are really cool. Let's see if we can get a picture. These are really beautiful, very strange looking rays. Here we go. So, quick shout out to butterfly rays. These are actually kind of fun in the Chesapeake Bay. But huge pectoral fins, very small pelvic fins, very small tail, hence where they get their name butterfly ray. So pretty fun, unusual group. And then while we're at it, we should take a look at the eagle rays. Eagle rays are also a really beautiful group of rays that have such a characteristic shape. So very sharp, angled pectoral fins, very pronounced snouts. Spotted eagle ray is a particularly beautiful species. Let's see. Manta rays, Mobulidae. So this is the giant manta, Manta birostris. Let's see. Okay, so manta rays are 23 feet wide. Also 7 meters. Let's see. the giant oceanic manta ray can grow up to 30 feet in length, 9 meters in length, and disc size of 7 meters, 23 feet across. But the typical size is 4.5 meters, 15 feet. I've been fortunate enough to see a manta in an aquarium. This was in the Bahamas, in Atlantis. And it was a long time ago, but I was amazed by the size. Like, it's incredible how large these animals get. So this is a really great size comparison of a moderately sized individual compared to a diver. It's still incredibly large animal, so just beautiful, beautiful animal. And I love the patterns too, like this like gorgeous marbling in the back with like it's like the black back with these like beautiful light saddles. It's really pretty. So these animals have these cephalic lobes, which help filter plankton. So they can make this like little basket that help filter plankton in, but then they can actually roll each of these these lobes up into horns. So right here you can actually see the lobes acting as horns, and this is also where they get their name devil ray. So the lobes are curled up as horns right here, but right here they're unfurled. So this manta ray might be beginning to feed on plankton. Another great size comparison here with a diver, so they get to be really large. Here is a great view of the horns rolled up, so it has that devil ray appearance. And you actually see some either shark suckers or whale suckers on the underside of this manta ray right here. So, very beautiful animal. Let's see. So manta rays are found all over the world. The oceanic manta has the largest brain of any fish, weighing up to 200 grams, 5 to 10 times larger than a whale shark brain. Their brains are surrounded by a network of blood vessels, the rete mirabili, which warms the blood flowing to the brain, and they are one of the few animals land or sea that might pass a mirror test, seemingly exhibiting self-awareness. So, never knew that before about manta rays. That is really, really cool. To check really quick, the mirror test, sometimes called the MARC test, mirror self-recognition, MSR test, red spot technique, or ROE test, is a behavioral technique developed in 1970 by American psychologist Gordon Gallup Jr. to determine whether an animal possesses the ability of visual self-recognition. In this test, an animal is anesthetized and then marked, for example, paint or sticker, on an area of the body the animal normally cannot see, like the forehead. When the animal recovers from the anesthetic, it is given access to a mirror. If it subsequently touches or examines the mark on its own body, this behavior is interpreted as evidence that the animal recognizes its reflection as an image of itself rather than another animal. The MSR test has become a standard approach for evaluating physiological and cognitive self-awareness. Few species have passed the test. However, several critiques have been raised that challenges the test's validity. Some studies have questioned Gallup's findings, while others discover that animals exhibit self-awareness in ways not captured by the test, such as differentiating between their own songs and scents and those of others. So I'd love to see which animals, non-human animals, that pass it. Animals that have passed. The bottlenose dolphin. Makes sense. The killer whale, also known as the orca whale. False killer whales. So incredible that dolphins pass. It totally makes sense. Horses. Primates makes sense. Bonobos. Orangutans, chimpanzees, gorillas, Asian elephant, the house mouse. Apparently the house mouse passes. Interesting. Magpies, crows. I've heard that crows are very intelligent. Pigeons. Cleaner wrasse. This is where I wonder if the test is kind of falling apart, but that's kind of interesting. According to a study done in 2018, cleaner wrasse were the first fish observed to pass the mirror test. Cleaner fish had an adaptive evolutionary behavior which would remove parasites from dead tissue. Yeah, Gordon Gallup believes that cleaner wrasse behavior could be attributed to something other than recognizing itself in a mirror. Okay. Yeah, that might be kind of weird. Here we go. Manta ray. In 2016, a modified mirror test was done on 2 captive manta rays, showed they exhibited behavior associated with self-awareness. For example, contingency checking and unusual self-directed behavior. Very interesting. So I've never actually heard that with manta rays before, that they were able to pass the mirror test. That's really incredible. So, sorry. Howard, I think they have some cat sharks too. Interesting. That is so interesting. Like, and it's remarkable too. It's it gives you a newfound appreciation for mantas. Just as far as they're kind of like the octopus of Lazarynx. Speaking of octopus, I actually should probably check. I'm sure an octopus does this. Here we go. Yep, octopus, pass. Atlantic ghost crab. Oh, wow. Okay, I actually really love this. These are actually animals that live in the Chesapeake Bay too. 2023 study found that these crabs seem to be capable of recognizing themselves in a mirror. The study's author concluded the data indicate that the crabs have a rudimentary form of self-awareness. Amazing. Excuse me. Animals that have failed. Sea lions, pandas, dogs, and cats. Dogs either treat the image as another animal or come to ignore it completely. Interesting. Some primates, so baboons and macaques and lemurs. Some birds. Cichlids. Some octopuses. Interesting. Animals that may pass are gibbons, rhesus macaque, pigs. Because I've heard pigs are quite smart too. Oh, here manta rays are again. Okay. 2 captive giant manta rays show frequent, unusual, and repetitive movements in front of a mirror, suggesting contingency checking. They also show unusual self-directed behaviors. Manta rays are the largest breeds of all fish. In 2016, Celia Ari tested captive manta rays at the Atlantis Aquarium in the Bahamas by exposing them to a mirror. That is the same aquarium I've been to. Wow. The manta rays appeared to be extremely interested in the mirror. They behave strangely in front of the mirror, including doing flips and moving their fins. They also blew bubbles. They did not interact with the reflection as if it were another manta ray. They did not try to socialize with it. However, only an actual mirror test can determine if they actually recognize their own reflections or if they're just demonstrating exploratory behavior. A classic mirror test has yet to be done on manta rays. My goodness, it's incredible. So, never thought I would learn that tonight, but that's so cool. Oh my goodness. Relation to humans. So manta ray unfortunately is considered to be endangered because its population has been drastically or decreased drastically over the last 20 years. Because mantas feed in shallow waters, the risk of them getting caught in fishing equipment is higher. Manta rays are also victims of bioaccumulation in certain regions, so which makes, well, at least one study has shown how heavy metals such as arsenic, cadmium, and mercury could be introduced in the marine environment by pollution and could travel up the trophic chain. I will say mantas, there's such an ecotourism draw that I think that helps it. So let's check the manta ray's conservation status in IUCN Red List, and then I think that we may have to wrap up for tonight because it's almost 11. As far as its order, Myliobatiformes goes, looks like it's a mix of statuses. White-spotted eagle ray is endangered, unfortunately. Coach whip ray, leopard whip ray, oceanic manta ray. Here we go. Endangered. So very interesting range map here, where the gold is extant, so documented to be in this region. And then the purple is possibly extant. So it's an ocean-going animal, so it possibly lives all around the tropical belt. Let's see. I won't read the whole assessment. I'm just going to skim. Within this broad range, aggregations are sparsely distributed, and while individuals are capable of long-distance movements, they do so infrequently and exhibit a degree of philopatry resulting in highly likelihood of local depletion. So they apparently visit specific areas that they really like, but that concentrates their numbers and makes them more exposed. The global population size is not known, but local and regional abundance has been estimated and is mostly small, numbering less than 500 individuals, except for Ecuador, where their abundance is estimated more than 2,000 individuals. The species has an extremely slow life history, producing only one pup on average every 4 to 5 years. Oh my goodness. So that is actually the worst as far as sharks and rays go. I don't think I've ever seen a shark with such a slow reproductive status. That's incredible. Its consequently is likely to have one of the lowest maximum rates of population increase of any elazabranchs. Where oceanic manta rays are protected in over a dozen countries and territories, and hence where they're not being fished, the sighting trends appear stable. This is good. Elsewhere, however, very rapid declines have been noted in sighting records and landings where they're targeted or caught as bycatch. So it's assessed as endangered, but it's not critically endangered. I want to see its conservation outlook. Here we go. And we won't read the whole thing again, but let's see. Local, national, and territory level restrictions and or protections of manta rays are currently placed for the USA, Hawaii, Australia and its territories, the Maldives, the United Arab Emirates, the Federated States of Micronesia, Thailand, Mozambique, Indonesia, and Philippines. Listed on Appendix 1 and 2 of the CMS, which is great. Manta ray tourism is managed in some locations, but if sustainable tourism industries are indeed to be developed around encounters with these rays, they should be legislated, continuously monitored, and enforced with permitting systems that make sure operator and tourists are adhering to best practice protocols and codes of conduct. So I hope we have enough in place to help this species, and I think we may. It is such a charismatic animal, and there's so many operations that help or that want to promote diving. This clip is from Manta Trust, so it's kind of like the equivalent of Shark Trust, but I wonder if I could post this in a chat. Or actually, let me see if I can post Manta Trust in the chat. So let's take a look at this channel really quick. The Manta Trust takes a multidisciplinary approach to the worldwide conservation of manta rays and their habitat through robust science and research, while raising awareness and providing education to the general public and community stakeholders alike. So I'm going to subscribe to Manta Trust. I'm going to share this channel in case anybody is interested. And I think with that, we might call it a night for tonight. Or we'll end on the note of the manta ray breaching, because it's just such a cool clip. And I love that it does a forward breach and then a backward breach. So such interesting... That's just an incredible animal. It's so cool. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to rewind this Deerfield Beach cam, which features all these rays. And I think with that, you'll see some rays coming into view. But I think with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. And thank you, Howard. I appreciate it. Interesting stream. I learned a lot. I did too. I didn't realize some of the things that we learned today, specifically about the manta rays, was really incredible. And the torpedo rays. It was fun to learn more about how torpedo rays electrocute things, and manta rays being intelligent, or one of the smartest, not just elazabranchs, but probably one of the smarter animals in the world, which is so cool. So, and also, Rory, if you're interested, this is Deerfield Beach, the Deerfield Beach cam. I'll type this in the chat too. Currently being photobombed again by that porcupine fish, but Thank you guys so much for watching. It's super cool to learn more about the rays as an outlier of sharks. And I'm excited for next week. We're going to do a surprise episode. And there's a manta ray. Amazing to see that in view. But we'll do a surprise episode either with a new shark or a new topic. I think this is a fun little side tangent. Cool little break, seeing how the sharks and the rays compare. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. And tune in next week for the latest episode 160. It will be a surprise. But cheers, guys. I'll see you soon. Have a good one.